Hi, my name is Shona, and I'm going to be presenting on To What Extent is Rivers Similar to Yelland from the novel Regeneration by Pat Barker. The novel is set in an Edwardian period of time, and it was very traditional, and it was a very stiff society. So they were very grounded in being a patriarchal and Edwardian society. And they also had very distinct roles of men and female, of male and female roles, gender roles. So the males were expected to be tough, resilient, and bringing it into the context of regeneration, they were expected to go fight, defend the country, and so many of them enlisted underaged into the army due to the pressures and the influences that their society had placed on them. So the men were always expected to be strong, never showing signs of vulnerability, whereas the women were expected to be dependent on the men, to stay back at home in the country and support their men that went to fight. And the stereotypical views of women were to be quite emotional, soft, and they were fairly spineless, you could say, without the men. So this all links back to my presentation topic, is these two distinct patriarchal roles and gender roles are explored through the two very distinct characters of Yelland and Rivers. So Rivers is a psychiatrist working at Craig Lockhart. His method of treatment is to get the patients to open up about themselves, and thus he always asked them questions such as, how do you feel about that, or tell me what happened. And in this way, his treatment just involved talking, so it's quite gentle and harmless. And Rivers is shown to genuinely care about his patients. One instance would be Burns, one of his patients, and he goes to visit Burns in Suffolk, in his country home. And there, Burns and Rivers are said to do a lot of activities together, such as talking and walking and going to the pub. These are very father-son oriented activities, so showing the relationships that he has with his patients, of that being very close to them. And he's also described as a male mother, showing that he does care. However, during the novel and his visit to Suffolk, Rivers contemplates about whether or not he should treat Burns. For Burns has suffered severe trauma, and he fears that if he encourages Burns to speak about his trauma and talk about it, it would just make matters worse. It will cause his trauma to grow, as they'll be redigging all his disturbing memories of experiences that may ultimately harm him further and cause him more pain. And so Rivers doesn't push it, and this shows that Rivers considers his patients and their welfare and what would really be best for them. And the fact that Rivers talks to his patients and has private sessions with them suggests that he is quite approachable as a person, and this is also shown through the quote of male mother, because it shows that he possesses maternal qualities. So one night he has a dream, before in the day he witnessed Yelland treating a patient, Callan. So in his dream he had vivid images of electrodes, the very instruments in which Yelland used to cure Callan, and so in that aspect the dream was quite realistic. And so, in the dream, it associates the electrodes with instruments that inflict pain. Another image comes to mind, and it's a horse's bit. A horse's bit is an instrument used to constrain and control an animal, in particular a horse. So, the symbolism of the electrode and the horse's bit is extremely significant. The horse's bit symbolizes Rivers' method of treatment, whereas the electrode symbolizes Yelland's method of treatment. So the horse's bit, it's a slow way of sort of taming the horse to lure them in and get them to get them to be controlled by you. That is Rivers's method. He talks to them slowly, easing them into the process, and ultimately gaining control and their trust, causing them to do what he wants. The electrodes, on the other hand, are more forceful, like Yellen's treatment. They inflict a lot of pain, and that surge of power and energy there and then will cause them to do whatever you want. So, in that way, those two vivid imageries are really significant to the novel of representing Yellen and Rivers's methods of treatment. When Rivers analyzes the dream, he describes Yellen's treatment as oral rape. So the rape aspect of it is quite sick and sadistic, and so suggesting that Yellen inflicts pain onto the patients for his own sadistic satisfaction, which is just horrible and torturous. And again, referring back to the rape aspect, it shows that the patient is unwilling and that the treatment is forced upon them. Another example would be the men that are sent to Craig Lockhart. They are unwilling when they go, such as Sassoon. And the same way Callan was unwilling when he was strapped down to the chair the second time and he was trapped in the room and he couldn't get out because Yellen had hidden the key.